what I'm going to talk about in this gathering is sharing with you how I meditate. Not just to tell you about my personal experiences, but to try to explain something essential about what meditation is through my own practice. If we can call it practice. For me, meditation is not a practice, you see. I hardly ever use techniques. Techniques are very useful if you want to achieve certain goals, cultivate certain meditative skills, perhaps hone your concentration, have very specific experiences. But when I sit to meditate, I consider this an opportunity to truly open up. And to truly open up, no technique is useful, because any technique creates a kind of focus, a kind of limitation. So that is one. When I sit to meditate, I don't sit with a certain technique. On the other hand, I don't sit with just the intention to be in silence, to be in silence in complete openness, because when we just sit with the intention to be in silence, that often lacks a certain direction that our meditation needs. You see, meditation needs to have some very gentle kind of intention and recognition. Our consciousness needs to be involved in meditation. So there can be an exploration, a movement into being. Sometimes this can be done easily through sitting with a question, a certain question, an open question, not a question that is necessarily going to lead to an answer, but a question that helps us direct our attention very softly. So when we sit on the one hand without any specific technique, and on the other hand not just completely open in a way that might lead us to just drowsiness or hazy states, or I don't know, some twilight zone states. We have a combination of awakened presence. We have a sort of direction, but it is without technique. It is not a practice. So that is just in between. And the beautiful thing about meditation, when it is not a practice, is that when we understand the essence of meditation, we can sit to meditate for hours on end. There is no limit to that meditation, because it is so effortless and so blissful that we feel absolutely no reason to become impatient, to want it to be over, because it's not a matter of doing. It is a matter of opening up, and that really has no edge. So, one way in which I see to meditate is approach the meditation as a form of prayer. And let's try to understand what that means, meditating as a form of prayer. What it means to pray through meditation, to pray in the form of meditation. Meditation can be a prayer that unites our hearts and minds. The heart brings the essence of meditation, the mind brings the essence of stillness and consciousness. So, meditation as prayer is a combination of devotion and stillness. Surrender and being. So what does that mean? This means that when I sit to meditate, the first thing I do, the first thing I allow myself to do in the meditation is recognize, acknowledge my non-self-existence. My non-self-existence. That means that as much as I feel most of the time that I am the manager of my life, I'm the boss, really, in actuality, if I look at it very honestly, my mind is not my own, my heart is not my own, my body is not my own. Probably this is the core of all illusion in life. This is where illusion starts, when we think that we own our bodies, our minds, our hearts, our lives. And that kind of sense of ownership is also why our minds, hearts, and bodies are so exhausted. It's so exhausting to try to be bosses of our lives, managers, while we have absolutely no capacity to own this life, because life is inherently not ours. When we believe that life is ours, we exhaust the mind. The mind becomes so ridden with desire and search and struggle, trying to manage a life that it cannot really understand. Now, what does that mean, that I acknowledge that I don't own my mind, I don't own my heart, I don't own my body? That means that essentially we don't really know how we came to this place and why. You see? We don't have this kind of ownership that enables us to choose to come to this place, to incarnate, to have a body, to have a mind, to have a life. We don't control our birth. We don't control our death. We are, in this sense, a phenomena. Something that appears and must disappear, like everything else. There are always, when we try to understand this kind of statement, the best ways to understand it is through analogies from nature. When we think of a cloud in the vast blue sky, I'm just looking at one, floating, having a momentary form. It looks, we call it a cloud. When we call it a cloud, it seems like it's an object, you see. And when we call something, we give it a name, and it becomes a noun, something that has its own existence. But really, we know that the cloud only appears to be a thing, right? It is actually a clouding. It's a phenomena. It's something in a state of becoming. It's a verb. The cloud is a verb, not a noun. So we look at it and we see, sometimes in a matter of seconds, sometimes a matter of minutes, how it slowly disperses or changes form. So the cloud, surely everyone here will agree, doesn't have its own self-existence. It doesn't control its existence. It appears and disappears. I always like to use another metaphor, which is the tree of life, or the cosmic tree, the tree that is the cosmos. There is a glorious tree that has been here for billions of years, and that is only what we know, because really the term cosmos depends on what we mean by cosmos and what we mean when we say that something began. So think of the cosmos as a giant tree. Each one of us appears on this tree momentarily as a leaf would emerge from a tree. So I am currently, this thing that is talking is a leaf. And this leaf, of course, has its autumn when it begins to wither, when it is very close to falling away. Now, this leaf can think, I have my own life. I don't belong to the tree. But if you stood in front of a tree and you heard a leaf speak like that, you would laugh, right? You look at this petty leaf trying to pretend that it has a life of its own, and you'll know it belongs to the tree. It is empowered by the tree. It is there. It has a momentary existence because the tree is. So this is where my meditation starts. When I sit, I close my eyes, and the first thing that I would do in this kind of meditation is a prayer, as a form of prayer, I immediately acknowledge the mind is not my own, the heart is not my own, the body is not my own. I let that tired, exhausted mind relax into this knowing. I let my tired heart relax into this knowing. I let my tired body relax into this knowing. And I remind myself this fundamental truth that for me, of course, is blissful. Some may find it intimidating. I remind myself that I don't know. I don't know, I'm just like a cloud. I'm just like a leaf. I don't know how I came into this world. I don't know why I came into this world. And if you don't know how and why, if you don't control your existence, that means that you don't control your life in the most fundamental sense. Life is not your own, you participate in it, you are it. You are its expression, not its manager, not its boss. And we don't even breathe by ourselves. The most basic act of living is not done by us. It is involuntary. And it was so from the very beginning. So this is what we can do in meditation as a form of prayer. We absorb the bossy self, the organizer, the manager. We reabsorb it in the tree or in the sky. We reabsorb it, another analogy from nature, because in nature everything makes absolute sense. It's so obvious that leaves belong to trees, right? It's so obvious that clouds belong to sky. It's so obvious also that a drop in the ocean belongs to the ocean, that no drop can just jump out and say, here I am, that's me, Mr. Drop, or Miss Drop, or whatever. And that's my life. That would be very funny, right? To behold. So that is a prayer. It's a form of prayer. I close my eyes and I acknowledge that none of this is my own. I'm not a manager. My whole being belongs to something greater. That's why it's prayer, you see. But it's prayer without the religious drama. It's not like praying in a way that we direct it towards a god or something like that. It is more like that kind of gentle letting go, gentle surrender, a sweet surrender, a silent surrender. We return to the very basic truth about life, about our life. Now, of course, we all know how to be the drivers of our life, in the sense that we have all the faculties that enable us to manage life, right? To do things, to make choices. And there is a certain relative self, relative I. Relative, it means that there is an I, a me, but that me is relative. It is like an organizing element of the body, mind, and heart. That I can choose, it can decide which thoughts to identify with, and all that. It can choose to listen right now or not listen at all. But the thing is about this I that exists is, one, even this I doesn't exist by itself. This I is just a phenomena. And the second thing is that this I doesn't know where to drive, it doesn't know when to drive, and it doesn't know what for. It doesn't have the most fundamental knowledge. It knows how to drive, but it doesn't know why, what for, where to. Because to know that, it must understand why it's here and how it came into being. So this kind of surrender, I don't really know. I cannot be so sure. And it's not so terrible that I don't know. This life is so steeped in mystery that I am also not supposed to know. It's not my job to know. Perhaps during the day I need to pretend that I know. All of us need to make up some certainties, some relative truths to be able to function and to be able to make choices. And that is perfectly fine. We all do that. We decide what brings meaning to our life. what psychologists call meaning in life. Not meaning of life, but meaning in life. But deep down, we know that that doesn't resolve the mystery. It doesn't cancel it. It doesn't change our reality. So in meditation, we finally say, well, yes, I really don't know, actually, to be honest. I don't know how I came into this life. I don't know why. This is a space of unfathomable mystery. I don't own my heart. I don't own my body. I don't own my mind, my breath. And therefore I surrender. In this sense, it is very much like the prayer in Judaism that also was repeated by Jesus. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Into your hands I commit my spirit. So that's meditation, really. You see, I sit and I commit my spirit into the hands of the tree, the ocean, the sky. And that's actually very joyful when we begin to identify how restful it is, how real it is, how beautiful it is. And there is the ultimate realization that awaits us deep inside that kind of meditation, that really, in reality, there is nothing, no one to absorb and nothing to become absorbed in, because really there's always been just the tree, the ocean, the sky, the universe, you see. That has always been the only reality. So there's it's like a drop realizing that it's always been steeped in this kind of blissful ocean, and that is, it only hasn't paid attention to that fact, and now it looks around it and it relaxes. It doesn't need to own itself. It doesn't need to pretend that it owns itself. So that's meditation as a form of prayer. It's when that kind of center in us, this I, disintegrates, blissfully dissolves into the ocean and finds rest and rejuvenation. So in this sense, yes, this is a prayer, really, but it is a prayer that happens through our entire being. It's not just words that we utter. It's not a heartful expression. It is we give ourselves away through our entire being. We meditate in this way. And our prayer is not directed towards someone, some personal God, a certain object of prayer. This prayer is turned toward the unknowable, of which we are a part. So it is not a dualistic kind of prayer. It is not that we're starting to bow down to something, because it is actually meant to end duality, end separateness. It immediately brings us back if we just truly acknowledge that. And it is truly to discover that there is no such thing as surrender, because to surrender you have to have something that is your own, that you give away. Ultimately, it is not so. It is realizing that there is nothing to surrender. There's always been the ocean, the tree, the sky. So that's not just prayer, but the satisfaction, the fulfillment of all prayer. It is, in a sense, when prayer is answered in the deepest sense. And from this wholeness, this absorption, we re-emerge from meditation. When this kind of prayer meditation is concluded, we will realize that our mind, our heart, our body are deeply silent, because there's been a profound relief. This sense that I don't need to be the boss of my life. I don't need to own it. I don't know how to own it. That is a deep kind of healing the wound of separation. And this is the deepest wound of them all. Not our traumas, not our childhood memories. It is this kind of alienation from the tree. When we no longer have that alienation, we act from that wholeness. To which we belong. So this is the essence of prayer, and this is the essence of meditation. They're not really two distinct things. So I think that now we can answer some questions, and then we will conclude with some guided meditation. There was one time when I had an interview with someone, and then I mentioned briefly that in mystical enlightenment, what we realize is that our life is not our own. And the interviewer seemed a bit horrified. He said, "I don't think that people would be happy to hear like that, something like that." And that was indeed clear that in our modern society that is so secular, we want to believe that we exist by ourselves. That's the point. There are some moments in life, especially death, of course, when we realize that we can pretend, but we cannot ultimately prove that wrong. You see, we cannot truly cancel this reality, because it's the very essence of everything.